Every relationship expert is talking about what it takes to be a high valued man or a high valued woman. And in my mind, I'm like, isn't this common sense? Well, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about what it takes to be a high valued individual. If you don't know who I am already, my name is Michael Tabirade, high performance coach and mentor. And I help self-starters and ambitious professional millennials increase their productivity, enhance their performance, realize their priorities, and live their life on purpose. Now, if this is the first time you come to my YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, all the links are in the description below. Now let's get into the video. So you're interested in what it takes to become a high valued individual. Now you're in the right place, because whether you see my YouTube videos or my lives or collaborations, I'm always talking about values, okay? Values, values, values. I mean, I've even been given a nickname at times, Mr. Values, because I realized how important living by your values is. So in this video, I'm going to be really breaking it down in terms of what it means to be a high valued individual. Now let's get into it. Now, in essence, having a high valued mindset or being a high value individual is moving when you want to move. What do I mean by this? Well, in essence, when you know your source, when you know your good stuff, you're only going to move when you need to move, when you want to move, not when other people are causing you to move. Now, this is really relatable in the relationship context, in the business context, in the working context. It doesn't really matter. You know when and how to move because you're moving based on your values. Now, breaking it down quite simply, your values are the things that you deem as important. Now, you only understand what your values are if you look back at your life and you realize, actually, this was pretty important to me. This was pretty important to me. Therefore, this is what I believe in terms of how I need to navigate my life. Now, that's not the only way, but usually experiences are the things that make you feel a certain way. And so when thinking about the relationship niche, there are a lot of guys or women out there who have failed in their relationships, and therefore they realize that they need to do better. And so they start to put importance and meaning on what they deem or think is important to them. And so those individuals who are high value people realize quickly, in a matured and developed sense, how to act and maneuver as an individual, because they're not budging. And therefore, if they don't budge in terms of their values, they're more likely going to understand how everyone else operates. That's effectively how it works. Now, when you really think about it, what makes a resilient man or woman or individual in general is somebody who can align to their values, someone who sticks to their values. When you're in situations where there is complexity or ambiguity, like there has been with the pandemic as an example, those people who were sure in themselves, those people who did the groundwork beforehand and really realized a sense of adversity before, were ready for this, okay? Could anyone really be ready? No. Could you rely on your values? Yes. Could that make you more comfortable and confident in terms of what you need to be doing forward? Yes, of course it could. In relation to the other person who wasn't a high valued individual. And so with that in mind, having the right set of values as a high value person means you can handle rough and tough times. That's what it comes down to. What I'd also like to add to this is that if you're a high valued individual, society is more likely, and I use my words very carefully, to treat you with more respect and reward you for being someone who produces value. Because if you're a valued person, you're more likely going to produce value, okay? What you say is not going to be rubbish. How you act is going to be efficient, and you're going to create the right level of authenticity and impact. These are things that people naturally draw on. So what I'm going to talk about are different things that make a person a high valued individual. Now, disclaimer, high potential, high status, high performing, and high value are all different things. And again, I've spoken about some of those stuff before, but I may talk about this in this video if I feel like it. Let's continue with that list. The first thing is, they know what they believe, okay? You can't tell a high valued individual that they should believe something else unless they want to believe something else. There's a difference. So they move when they want to move. This is what I was saying before. And so their experiences have conditioned and embedded in their minds that what they believe is what they believe. And if that changes over time, that's on their own accord. So they have strong belief systems that resonate with them. And that's what dictates how they move going forward. The next thing I'd say is that these individuals are usually highly developed social individuals. What do I mean by this? They understand the human dynamic. They understand how human psychology works. And therefore, they move when they want to move. And do they really care? I guess no, they don't. But it doesn't mean they're not aware of how people are moving. And so if they need to respond in accordance to that stuff, they will respond in accordance to that stuff. Now, I'm not trying to make it out like high valued individuals are reptilian by nature, or, you know, they're a bit obnoxious or whatever it is. But even if they were, they still wouldn't care because they know what they believe and they don't need validation from other people. And so from a social standpoint, they're very on cue when it comes to how people operate and how to respond to those individuals if need be. The next thing I'd say is that they have a strong sense of purpose. They have defined what their purpose is. They're not necessarily looking or seeking for purpose. They've defined it. And so because they've defined it, they know how to operate. They know how to go and get what they need to go and get. And so if they create their sense of purpose based on their values, then they're going to be ambitious and driven individuals by nature, because their sense of purpose, i.e. purpose being an aim or a goal, is something that they're striving towards. So everything that they do pretty much works towards that primary aim. The next thing I'd say is that they attract people and opportunities. If you are a high valued individual, it is most likely that you are aligned to a specific path. And if you're aligned to a specific path, you are more likely going to be doing something to a high level. You're probably high performing or high achieving because of that consistency and that relentlessness when it comes to delivering on what you want to deliver on. And so with that stuff, you produce value, and therefore that helps for you to attract people as well. That creates more opportunities. You don't become high value by accident. And so with that in mind, high valued individuals attract opportunities and people because of their values that enable them to create value, which attracts other people. That's how the science works, people. And so if you don't have something to hustle and grind on, okay, based on it relating to your sense of values and purpose, then you're not a high value individual. The next thing I'd say, and I've kind of alluded to this already, is that they cut out the BS and they're resilient by nature. They realize that all of that stuff that gets in the way, all the noise and everything else, is a distraction. And they're trying to minimize that. They're trying to create quietness because they understand that being still, being present in the moment, and being able to manage difficult times is what creates them to be individuals that know how to respond, individuals that know how to solve problems, individuals that can overcome any sort of barrier. And so they pride themselves in that. And so they seek to better themselves every single day where possible. And so they cut out the BS and they make sure that they stick to a certain level of resilience. The next thing that they do is that they know how to respond in difficult times. They're resilient by nature. And they're resilient by nature because they understand that that resilience is very much grounded on what they believe, what their sense of values are, what their sense of purpose is. And they know that there can't be any excuses if they need to get to where they need to get to. And so what makes someone resilient is what they deem as important. That's what grounds them, so to speak. And so high valued individuals always know how to conduct and handle themselves in challenging situations. The next thing is that they don't lie to themselves. They don't have time for that. They need to be efficient. They need to be effective. And they realize that if they're lying to themselves, this is going to slow things down for them. And they don't want that. And so if another individual's coming in, slowing them down, or if something in the ether is doing something that is slowing them down, that's going to get them irate. That's going to get them mad, because for them, time is currency. Time is money. Your energy is like money. Okay? It's ticking. It's being used. It's being spent. And so they want to make sure that they grow and invest their time, energy, and money in things that make sense. They don't have time for the crap. They have time for things that make sense for them. And so if you're going to compliment that for them, great. If not, get out of my life. It's that simple. So they make sure that they lower and minimize the BS, because they haven't got time to lie to themselves and create inefficiencies. Now, here's a little bit of banter for you before we continue. Do you think there is a difference between a high value man and a high value woman? Leave your comments below and be nice, guys. Anyway, let's get back into the video. The next thing I'd say is that a high valued individual will do whatever it takes to succeed. You could call that stubbornness, you could call that consistency, you could call that persistence. Doesn't really matter. You understand what I mean. They're relentless in their pursuit towards their goal. Relentless. And so that sort of individual is unbudging by nature. They're uncompromising. They're unreasonable. They understand that they're the protagonist of their life, and therefore it is incumbent upon them to succeed. With that success comes persistence, a certain aggression and drive with what they need to be doing. And so they're going to continue pursuing their goal intelligently, not like a fool, but using data, information, and other sources of feedback to understand how to maneuver, how to get towards their Northern Star. Following on from that is the understanding that nobody, and I mean no one in the high heavens or below can stop them from being great. No one can stop them from doing what they were called to do. They believe they're being led. They believe this is what they were meant to do, whatever it is that they're doing. And so a high valued individual will not be budged, will not be swayed, will not be overcome by something else or anything else, because they're convicted. It is part of their being, it's part of their DNA. So they can't be told what to do, and they can't be pushed or budged to do something else. The next thing is that they're naturally more confident individuals. Whether they see this or not, it's not that they're trying to be confident, that's just what oozes out of them. They're just confident individuals. Because, again, it links back to what is important to them. If you know what you believe, you have a certain level of confidence. Because confidence stems from knowledge, does it not? Some form of knowledge, some form of understanding, some form of assurance in your mind, in your heart, in your being, in your spirit, that you're right. Or at least that is the way to go. And so high valued individuals are confident by nature, whether they recognize it or not. The next things I'm going to say is that these individuals may be high potential individuals. Okay, I spoke about this in a previous video. So high potential individuals are those who are talented, but they may not be recognized as talented individuals and therefore don't have the right hierarchical positions or leadership positions or wherever it may be. Now, because the high valued individual is ambitious only in alignment to their specific values and goals, by virtue they're going to want to do more. And so many of us, okay, me included, are in that high potential bracket, okay? But you still have a high value mindset. You still have a high value mindset, and you operate based on that accordance. In addition to that, high value people are most likely going to be high performing people as well, okay? These are people who produce great outputs and outcomes. They produce evidence-based, tangible stuff that shows their work, okay? And it's not because they're trying to show off or anything like that, but because they're a high valued person, they're more likely going to have a higher work ethic, and therefore they're going to be able to produce more because of that passion and drive that is driven from their internal state. And this is why sometimes, most likely a high value person is a high performing person as well. Now I want to make this distinction, okay? I've spoken about high potential, I've spoken about high performance and obviously high value. There's also high status, and I want to give credit to my friend, another Michael, who was telling me about this because I know nothing about this world. But basically what was being said is that a high status person is recognized as someone who is great by perception, but they don't necessarily have high value, okay? Because they may have done something specific, the masses may see them as high status and therefore important. But when you really dig deep and you understand what they're about, you may realize that actually they're not high value, they're not even high potential, and they're not necessarily high performing. So sometimes that can create a blind spot. So make sure you're not a high status person, you're truly a high value person that can actually feed off these other, sort of forms of being high. In addition to that, what I'd like to say is that high value people compartmentalize their emotions and feelings. Now, it doesn't mean they're not emotional, because a lot of these individuals have a high degree of emotional intelligence. If you haven't checked out my video already, make sure to check that out. What that means is they know how to interpret their feelings. They are self-aware. They understand how they feel in different situations, and they know how to manage that. In addition to that, again, relating to the whole social element, they know how to respond to people in the right way. They know how to manage relationships in the right way. And so these individuals compartmentalize, they objectify. When you think about personal growth, there's something in psychology known as the psychological muscle. And what that means is that you move from a state of subjectivity and seeing things as face value and moving into a state of objectivity where you can look at things outside in and realize that actually this is how it works, this is how it operates, this is what I've learned from this. That's the difference. If you're not able to do that, you need to work on that, my friends. And so if you're interested in becoming a high valued individual, then book a breakthrough session where we can sit down and talk about how you can become a high valued, high performing, high achieving individual in today's society. Now, if you like this video, make sure to hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, high valued individuals or not, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.